unit of heat. Every wave of every particle that was her beloved child remains with her in this world. You want the physicist to tell your weeping father that amid energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got, and at one point, you'd hope that the physicist would step down from the pulpit and walk to your broken-hearted spouse, there in the pew, and tell him that all the photons, is that how you pronounce it?
Photons, yes.
Photons that ever bounced off your face, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by your smile, by the touch of your hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off like children, their ways were ever changed by you, and as your widow rocks in the arms of a loving family, may the physicist tell her, let her know that all the photons that bounced from you were gathered in the particle detectors that are her eyes, that those photons created within her constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons, whose energy will go on forever, and the physicist will remind the congregation of how much of all our energy is given off as heat. There may be a few fanning themselves with their programs, as he says it, and he will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all that we are, even as we who mourn continue the heat of our own lives. And you'll want the physicist to explain to those who loved you that they need not have faith. Indeed, they should not have faith. Let them know that they can measure, that scientists have measured precisely the conservation of energy and found it accurate, verifiable, and consistent across space and time. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound, and that they'll be comforted to know that your energy is still around. According to the law of the conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly. Amen.
Well, thank you.
Huh?
That's nice.
Yeah, right?
Did you write that?
No.
Oh.
It's by Aaron Freeman,
Oh.
who's a physicist.
Well, Sanko.
Huh?
Sanko.
What?
Sanko.
Eh.
Sanko.
But yeah, suppose it would be the same energy as was there to begin with, but without a manifestation of form.
No manifest formulas?
So, if it's all just, imagine before the Big Bang, everything was just empty energy.
Okay.
Energy, energy, energy.
Energy.
That's all it was.
Big energy.
Energy that keeps building itself, breaking itself, building itself.
And destroying itself.
Yeah. That's all we are. Energy taking new shapes and forms constantly.
Oh, shapes and forms, shapes and forms, shapes and forms. Yes,
And
shape.
does there have to be a need for such a thing? Probably not. We created order. We created the need for order and meaning and purpose and all this stuff.
You? What do you own the world? How do you own disorder?
Mm-hmm. And in any way, however much you try to make some kind of meaning from it, saying, oh, there's all these realms and you need to go through all these cycles and you need to do all this to reach something, nirvana or whatever.
It's just a LARP.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it just leads all back to the same thing, which is an endless loop that cannot be understood by the way our mind works because we want something to come from something. We want something to be created from something because it's not possible without this being there beforehand and stuff. But that's an endless loop and it's insane, right?
Huh?
It's like saying, oh, there is an almighty God that created everything, but who the fuck created God? We don't ask that question. How did God even know what it was to create, and how did he think consciously about doing anything? Where did he come from? Where did he think these thoughts? What was important and why was it important? If we ask ourselves the meaning of our lives, we must extend that to ask about that which is above us too. If there is something conscious up there that created us, it was for a purpose. And why is that purpose there? That's an endless why.
Yeah, that's why is the most dangerous question.
So let's just say that this energy has always been there, always will be.
Yeah,
It's just creating itself over and over and over
that's the most likely.
in different ways, shapes, and forms.
Oh my god.
And it'll keep doing that.
Oh my god. Keep talking. So good.
That feels like the most real thing.
Hmm.
Because you don't need to ask the why. Because it just is.
The why is for the insecurity. Most of the time. Or because you're just
But
stupid.
it's also important. There are some important whys. There are important questions to everything. But
Depends on the user.
I have tried to analyze all the possible things, and I had only to come to the conclusion that at some point our minds cannot follow. At some point, our minds ask for more than what is.
Oh god.
Huh?
We're all fucking doomed.
So, energy is always going to be the same energy in all kinds of ways. Like nothing is lost, it just is, and it gets converted to something else. So, that's why I actually think the egg now came before the hen. Not just metaphorically speaking, like, I think life came in the shape of an egg.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about an explosion, sure, that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, we're talking about things that are dense, that compact, that break apart themselves.
How do you know the Earth is not just a giant egg?
I don't know what it is or isn't. I've speculated many things.
Yeah. This is just another speculation, but I like this speculation.
I'm LARPing the way that I'm LARPing myself.
And then when the moon breaks apart, all the dragons come out of it.
Not before the ritual of the fucking. Never before the ritual of the fucking.
No, some people are hermaphrodites, or some creatures are hermaphrodites. They don't need fucking. They can just make themselves.
I can't do it. I'm not that powerful.
No,
I need
but
your
maybe the first creatures were. They did not need a mate. They could create themselves,
That's what they
and then evolution just found it more
I don't buy into the.
entertaining to create
I don't buy
female
in.
and male
See,
species.
I don't buy into the idea of that evolution thing.
Hermaphrodites?
No, those are fine. I have no issue with that. Those are fun. I'm talking about. The hell was I talking about?
what part of evolution don't you believe in?
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. So, I get the idea that we adapt to survive and whatnot, and that's not what I'm debating at all. Okay.
Yeah.
The thought that goes through my mind is simply the fact that, let's take chess for example, and this would be an abstract at first. Take chess. You have 64 slots in which you have abilities to have a position, right? You then have brain not working. You then have 16 slots in which you have the units and positions. Yes?
Yeah, but there are clear rules and boundaries. I don't think evolution works out.
No, hold on. You have 64 boards, 64 slots on the board, and you have 32 units in position, right?
Yeah.
Does it tell you that there's any correlation between any chess game and any set of data?
I'm still not good enough at chess to really make a good understanding of analogy of it.
Okay, let me put it this way. There was a Russian who was the world champion. IBM built a computer that had an AI that was able to beat him. Because based upon every move that he made, it detected what the outcome of that game was going to be and pushed it into that direction.
Yeah.
That means that there is a definable number of possibilities on that board that can happen.
So you think evolution has a definable number?
I think mutations exist in addition to it, but I think that's the basis of it. I think the mutation is what we actually call evolution. But I think there's a base.
Yeah. I agree on
But I
that.
think there's just a base template for what can be created out of it.
From what we currently have, yes, but I think if conditions change, we'll see different.
Yeah, but I don't think it matters. I think that life can take any form. It can take any atomic structure so long as it's organic, because there's nothing in
Yeah.
existence that isn't organic. There may be things in it we don't like, but that doesn't make it not organic. You know?
It's hard to say because we haven't been around. We don't recall having been around all this time. We don't know if we were a rock before. If that was just a rock in a consciousness in the darkness.
I suppose you might be right on these things, yes.
Because they're made of the same stuff that we're made of. It depends on what defines consciousness. If it is our brain that creates everything, or if there is any kind of consciousness outside of the brain.
There is.
It does not have to be something that we know of, are familiar with, but it could still be something within that spectrum. That's why I think like plants and stuff, you still see, they might still have consciousness in ways.
Oh, I'm sure they do, but
Like, I don't think they have pain receptors. Like, they don't have a central nervous system, but that depends. Is consciousness dependent on that?
Well, hang on a sec. Let's start over for one thing real quick here. When you're thinking about that, are you taking into consideration that the structure you're seeing is not necessarily the form that it actually takes?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what I mean by that?
I only have the images that my brain made out to be the truth.
Okay, and what do you know about these images that this brain brought to your brain's attention?
Well, I know my brain is unreliable.
Why? Why is your brain unreliable?
I mean, there is plenty of proof how your brain is easily deceived, especially from if you take some substances or if you play certain colors or movies or pictures, your brain won't be able to interpret these things correctly, or it'll get stimulated by something and show you something entirely different, and you dream with it too.
Yes, it is because we were designed and developed and needed to evolve into a form that could predict patterns.
Yeah.
Tell me it's any more complicated than that.
No.
Okay.
So you can cheat the brain easily.
If you understand how it works, yes. But then if you are able to override what it's doing, does that not show you at a further depth than what you perceive it to be at?
Yeah.
Me too.
What if when you die, your energy